You may have seen a few weeks ago, I was sort of saying, look, I'm a bit worried about the economy. So I'll just give you a 5-second view of why I think what I think, which is I wasn't really asked actually about whether the New Zealand economy was going south. What I was asked about was what I think about the global economy. And what's really confusing about the global economy is the US economy is on fire. Like, it is unbelievable. And second quarter growth was 4.1%. You go and ask any decent economist, they will tell you that if you can get 3% growth out of a developed economy, they think it's amazing. So when we were getting called the rock star economy, and that guy Paul Bloxham, the chief economist from HSBC, he was on the news not that long ago saying it was even better than what we thought from 2014 to 16. We were growing at about 3.5%, 3.3 or something like that. So they're at 4.1 for a $20 trillion economy. That is incredible. The problem is, and this is where I reckon the problem rests, is that Trump is running a budget deficit that's 7% of GDP. So in the very worst of the GFC and the Christchurch earthquakes, we were nowhere near that number. We got a bit close one year, but outside that, we weren't at that number. And the issue here is, he is really spending tomorrow today. And interest rates are going to go up. In fact, we were talking about it at our table. You know, US bond yields are the same as New Zealand yields. Well, New Zealand yields, if you listen to Adrian Orr, are going down, and international bond yields, are going up. And I just look at all that and I say, there's a lot of household debt there. Who knows? But if you look around the rest of the world, there are just some signs that start showing you that we're back a bit to where we were a while ago. So just have a look what's happening in Turkey at the moment, or Venezuela, where they reckon, inflation's 115,000%. How do you measure that? I don't even know. And I was in China basically a few weeks ago, and I've been going there. I've been there a lot, and I have typically meetings and breakfast and lunch and things with people who sort of know what they're doing there. For the first time 3 weeks ago, they were saying to me, we're worried, we're not buying things, we're not doing stuff. These trade wars have got them a bit spooked on what's going on. They're just not sure. I mean, the Shanghai index is getting smashed. Only 1% of Chinese companies are actually listed. So it's what's happening behind the scenes that's a little bit ugly there. Then you look at household debt. In the developed world, what's happened is household debt's gone up. And the reason is house prices have gone up, right? So when I was down at the ANZ call centre, this guy rings up and he says, I'm just querying something on my mortgage. And so the nice young lady who's ANZ who's answering the phone says, blah, 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 I can fix that for you. And I said to her, how much does he owe? And she said, 1.2 million. And I said, wow, is that a lot? And she said, not around where you live. It's a lot more than that. It's millions. And it's everywhere. It's not just there, isn't it? I mean, people borrow quite a lot of money. Basically, the trend, by the way, is 30% of all people have a mortgage, 30% of people own the house outright, and the rest of people rent. Well, it's about 33. That's pretty much a trend. So investment properties. But those who have debt have quite a lot of debt. And they're very susceptible to interest rate movements. And it's big time in Australia, but it's also around the rest of the world. So to give you an example, I was playing golf at the start of the year for this charity event. And Dave Chambers was there from Progressives, who own obviously Countdown supermarkets and things. And I said to him, how are you going? How's the supermarkets going? He said, pretty darn good. And I said, okay. And I said, do they move around much? It must be pretty similar year in, week out. He said, if Lotto Powerball is $20 million or more, the ticket, we trade down for 8 days in supermarkets after that. I said, wow, really? He goes, yeah, people go from steak to sausages. So, when you add a big petrol tax, as you've done in Auckland, all of the people in this room, we probably just go, well, it costs $80 to fill up the car, not 60 or whatever. In a lot of parts of Auckland, people will be going, that is $20 less, I am not spending on something else. You would be amazed how many people really live pretty much paycheck to paycheck, which is why actually the government's GST goes up when oil prices go up, but their GST goes down in other areas because they're spending less money in other places. And then you kind of look around the world and you say, when the GFC came, you had a very strong China. You no longer really have that capacity to spend $1 trillion. You had very high interest rates as a general rule. They could cut those. They can't really do that now. 3/4 of the world still has 0% interest rates, really. Then you had not as big a budget deficits being run by countries and not as much debt from countries. They had money to spend. They don't really have that anymore. They printed money. They can't really do that trick again. So I guess my point is just, I don't know. Things go in cycles. But I just worry a little bit that clouds are starting to get a bit heavier in the global economy. And I think, the only observation I make about New Zealand is, look, everyone has their own political views, everyone knows mine. But if you think about what drove the economy when I was Prime Minister and when we were the government, was really strong migration, strong housing markets, very high levels of business confidence, very low levels of interest rates, pretty strong commodity prices, booming tourism. I mean, the government is really saying to a lot of those things, they're not interested. They don't want foreign direct investment. We're now banning oil and gas exploration. I mean, basically, they don't want foreigners to come and buy a house. They don't really want foreigners to come, so migration numbers are starting to come down. They're really putting the clamps on international education in the country. And all I'd sort of say is, that's all fine. I mean, business confidence is through the floor, 10-year low. You can take all sorts of things off the table. It's a legitimate right of any government, and I would defend their right to do that. But all I would say is, just tell me what you're putting on the table. Because if you're taking all of these things off, what are the things that are going to drive the economy? And I think that's the challenge for them over the next few years, to think about not what they're stopping, but what are they prepared to start that is of the equivalence. Because, with the greatest respect, getting rid of plastic bags isn't going to make the economy grow at 3.4%. There've got to be sensible things that